We just want to share thoughts, around analytics and what's going on in that space and data science. So we'll get right into it. And we'll take questions after the presentation. So if that's okay by all of us. Okay, just a bit of introduction. My name is Tunji Akingbade. I'm a master principal architect at Oracle. I've got over 20 years in the IT space, and I currently work out of the Ottawa office in Canada, looking after technologies like analytics, database. May I request that we sort of mute our mics if we are not speaking? Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, so I've got over 20 years in the IT space. What I do now is more of what we call, architecting solutions for enterprise businesses, ensuring that we are solving their problems with technology. And I'm also a mentor with Afara, and today I'll be talking and sharing with you about analytics. And also I have with me Dr. Wole Adewumi. Doc, you want to introduce yourself?
All right, thank you, Tunji. And again, good evening, good afternoon to everyone that has joined us today. We appreciate your joining. My name is Wole Adewumi, and I am a solution consultant at ePerformance Incorporated. It's a small solution company in the capital of Canada, that is Ottawa. And my career actually started out in academia. So I was in the academic space for well over 10 years, where I obtained a PhD in computing and also taught for a while before I left that space and then moved into technology, into the technology space. And I started out my career as my industrial career as a web developer. And now I switched roles again into what I will call a kind of training role, where I train, I get to do development and a bit of business analysis here and there. So I'll be talking more about this as we go on in this presentation today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Doc. So again, and I think this is why we're having this conversation today. I mean, if we look at the world we are today, everything looks like it's driven by data, and we can see that play, when it comes to organizations. When we even see at the different countries, we saw the case with TikTok, with between the US and China. We saw what played out. What is happening today is it is now becoming a data-driven world, and whoever wins that world, or whoever sort of wins that, if I can put it to war, will probably lead the world in the next few years. This is an interesting quote. We used to say data is the new oil, but now I think it's more than that. It's the new soil. It's something you cannot do without. I mean, think about your daily life, so what we do on a daily basis, and I'm sure we've done that today. We are all on Zoom now. We are generating lots and lots of data. If you visit the website, you're generating data. If you are trying to get from point A to point B using your Google Maps, for example, you are generating data. If you subscribe to anything online, you are generating data. In other words, think about it. Everything that we do now, is being done by generating a lot of data. And then we are moving into the space of 5G, for example, where interesting things are going to happen again. We are going to have a lot of IoT devices, things we couldn't do before. Now we are going to do that. And it's, so if we look at in 2020, with all the pandemic and all the stuff happening, we generated an average of 1.7 megabits of data by every individual every second. Think about how much that is. So we are looking at, like 2.5 quintillion bytes of data produced by humans every day. That is one with 18 zeros after. I'm sure Doc will be able to, talk more about all of those. It's a huge amount of data. So we see, we are getting to the point where we are even going to generate more and more data. Your fridge will be generating data. Your electronics will be generating data. The roads will be generating data. We are talking about driverless cars. We are going to generate data. So it's going to be a world driven by data. But I think, it's not, you might start thinking that, oh my goodness, this is now data overload. Where are we going to store this data? How are we going to manage this data? But I think what's even more important is to say, listen, how can you sort of leverage this data? And one of the companies that I really admire, and I'm using this example because we are probably all familiar with it. Of course, we see a lot of people from Nigeria on the webinar today. So you understand years ago, I mean, when I say years ago, it's not like it was 20 years ago. Few years ago, you can see the experience of you moving from point A to point B. You will have to walk to a bus stop, or you go to a taxi park, you have to order your taxi, you have to negotiate, and God help you if you cannot negotiate properly. You are not sure of this, the service you are going to get. You are not sure if that taxi is going to break down the middle of the road. My first interview ever when I moved to Lagos a few years ago, I remembered I was in my white shirt ready for my interview, and then I sort of ordered this taxi that looked really amazing from the outside. And then I got in, and just few minutes into the journey, I started smelling like exhaust pipe. The fumes of the car was coming from outside the car, inside of the car. It was a terrible experience. And then we have this company that showed up and then sort of changed that experience, from moving from point A to point B. And how did they do that? Leveraging data. So if you start thinking about it, and this you can check also on Uber's website, you can begin to imagine the amount of data that they sort of collect to be able to create this amazing experience. So for example, they have an idea of your name, your email, your mobile, your payment methods, places that you've stored as your addresses, that you've saved on your phone. They've got that detail. If you're a rider, they know the time that you ordered the ride. They know the location at which the trip was requested. They know when you started the trip. They know when the trip ended. They know the price that you paid. They know the currency that you paid. If you are like myself and sometimes you order out, Uber Eats, they can now start also get the data of which restaurants you visit, what do you order, and you begin to see the idea how they have taken something very simple, collecting data, but now they are transforming it to create the amazing experience. If you're a driver on Uber, they understand where you went, how long you stayed, how long you were idle, how many stars did your customers give you, how many rides were canceled, so you can begin to see the amount of data being collected to create an experience. And this is what we say. I mean, this is the future. You will have loads and loads of data, but it is the person that can transform that data into information and transform the information into insights that is going to win this game. And that's why you are seeing Uber moved from, it's a taxi alien service. Now they are into the, delivering food with the Uber Eats. And, lately they are doing what is called Uber Movement, which is helping some of the governments around the world. It's not everywhere in the world now, but what they are doing is they are leveraging their data to help them plan properly, maybe plan the city center, plan around traffic management and things like that. So you can see the amazing things data is able to do. They are able to do this because they've taken that data and then they've analyzed that data, and then they are using that data to create an amazing, amazing, amazing super experience. And what we always say is, listen, data is worthless without insight. So you can have all the data in the world without converting it into insight. It is just a waste of time. And we see organizations across the world, that have sort of collected data over the years, but they are not really using it to create the experience. And this is the one reason why we think as a data analyst, this is one of the few jobs that is like future proof for now, moving forward. And it's really interesting because there's this report done by LinkedIn, talking about 15 opportunities that are in demand and hiring now. And they found out that from 2019 till date, we've got a 46% increase in hires for data professionals. Why is this? Because that is the future. These are the skills that are needed for the future. And these are the skills that are future proof that we all probably need to start thinking about in our daily lives. Okay? Because I've had a lot of conversations where people are saying, you know what, with what is happening in the world today, with machine learning, with AI, are robots going to take my job? What is the future? What should I prepare for the future? I think this is one of the skills that you probably need to have that looks future proof for now, such that you can play in that space. And I just wanted to make that point. Okay, I think Prof, you want to take this? Yes, please.
All right, so we're talking about the data roles. There are quite a number of them. This is just a few. There are other ones outside of this, but these are some of the very, very common ones that you see in job postings. The first one is business analyst. Now, as the name suggests, they are closer to the business. They tend to work with the business. And you can also see them as kind of middlemen between the business and the technical side of things. So they try to bridge that gap between the business side of things and the IT side of things. Again, these business analysts, they rely on the information that data analysts get in order to be able to propose, so actually identify problems and propose solutions for businesses. So they are more or less kind of tied, they are more tended towards businesses. On the other hand, we have data analysts. So the role of this particular individual is to clean and transform data. So basically, when we say clean and transform data, data does not always come, data in its raw form is useless. So this analyst would tend to kind of clean up the data, and then they now try to find things that are kind of peculiar, some patterns and trends in those data. And then they try to make it visual, something that people can actually relate it. When it is visual, when data is converted into a visual form, it's more easy to work with. So that's what they do. And then they try to pass this on to the business analyst. So the business analyst will now be able to use that, to help the business. Now, on the other hand, there's this role also that has actually come out, and it's becoming very, very popular, the data engineering role. So these guys are basically they are concerned with data wrangling, or basically transforming data. So essentially their task is three things. They extract data from the source, they transform this data, and then place it into databases that other people can work with, for instance, the data scientists. So the data scientists would usually rely on the data that this person has actually mined and then put in a particular database where they can actually go and access and then begin to do their own work. So that is basically the role of the data engineer. Again, some other things they do include developing algorithms to help make raw data more useful to an enterprise. Okay, and one other thing, again, they focus on building infrastructure and architecture for data generation. So you can just remember the ETL, that is, they extract from source, they extract data from source, they transform this data and place it into containers where data scientists can now go on and continue to work with. Then we come to the role of the data scientist. So these ones are they are more or less technical, or I'll call them, they are more like the mathematicians and the statisticians of data. So they usually have skills that are related to mathematics, statistics, and all of that. They are able to take data, model it, and then even try to predict the future use based on the data they have. They try to predict, they try to make predictions into the future based on what we have now or what has already happened in the past. Can we predict the future? So that is the role of a data scientist. They try to see how they can actually predict the future using data. For instance, you see how if you follow the COVID-19, how cases have evolved and all of that, you see that the role of data scientists basically is to take the data that has, from previous experiences and try to simulate what the future would look like. And then we have the database administrator. Their role basically is centered on making available databases and then ensuring that it is optimum. They also try to distribute the data and information to the right people at the right time. All right, so the next. So this slide kind of gives a kind of an idea of the kind of salary that these different individuals on average are entitled to. For instance, you look at the data scientist, they have, it says this, and this data is taken from PayScale. PayScale is a body that actually they kind of record or talk about the pay scales. The pay of different professionals. You can actually go to PayScale and then you find out how much a particular role goes for. So this is also where we got most of this data from. For data scientists, you see it's about 96,491 per year on average. Then also for the base salary, we're looking at between 67 to 135. The bonus is about 2,000 to 20,000. That is, and then for profit, so that's just a kind of range of what a data scientist is entitled to. And then also talking about the data analyst, they earn between about on average 57,357 a year. And for the data engineer, they're looking at 80,542 per year. And all of this is in Canadian dollars. So you can convert that into whatever currency. So this is in Canadian dollars. The business analyst earns on average 66,593. And for the database administrator, we're looking at between 67,592 annually. Yes. Do you want to say any other thing about this?
Oh, no. I think you pretty much covered it. I think what's interesting is the data scientist one, it's actually USD. And what I typically say is you need to look at the total pay. So the total pay is actually between 66 and 145. So you can go as high as 145 Ks. You can be in between that. It's really up to you in terms of the when you sort of negotiate these salaries when you've got a job interview. But this gives you an idea of what value what value organizations place on jobs like skills like this, analytic skills. And I think that
Oh, we lost you there.
Yeah, I think we lost. We may have lost Tunji for a little bit. I'm sure he will join back in. Yeah, so maybe and his screen is where we're presenting from, I suppose, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I think he's gonna join back in.
Yes.
But I think while we wait for Tunji to log back in, because he will be logging in shortly, maybe we can start taking a few questions. And I think for the questions, just put them in the chat so that we can take a few of those questions. And then once Tunji comes back in, we can continue the conversation. And I do see that some people have actually also voted in the poll. So that's amazing. Thank you for doing that. So you should be fine there. Let's see.
Okay.
Hi, Hugo.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, back.
Yeah, you need to enable sharing.
Oh yeah, you should be able to. Okay, I think you should have it right now. I think maybe because when you left, so you should have it again. Okay, cool.
Okay.
All right.
My apologies for that. Yeah, go ahead.
No problem. All right. So now we're talking about the skills. What are the skills you need to actually get into the data analytics domain? The first thing you need basically is problem-solving skills. This is we can't overemphasize this. You need to be able to look at problems, break them down, and then begin to tackle them. So this is one essential skill that every data role requires: the problem-solving skill, being able to break problems down and then solve them. And then critical thinking, it's actually a part of problem solving. You need to be able to think critically to come up with solutions or ways through which you want to tackle any given problem. Because problems, especially in the data field, can be diverse, and they can come in different ways and forms, depending on what you're working on at any given time. So critical thinking is also another very, very important skill that you need to possess, and we can refer to these as kind of soft skills. They are soft skills that you require. And then now going on to the more technical skills, we talk about data visualization. Now you have raw data, and raw data does not really make sense. Just like crude oil is useless until it has been refined. So data visualization is being able to transform that data now into something that people can actually, visualize. If you see a pie chart, that makes more sense than just seeing numbers. Okay, what does this number represent? If you put that in a chart, it becomes very, very interesting, or people are more drawn to it. So that is another skill you need to possess, and this one is a technical skill: being able to visualize data visualization. And then another fundamental skill or technical skill that you require is SQL, structured query language. You cannot run from this in the data field. You will be querying one form of table or the other as a data specialist or a data professional. So you need this skill. This is one skill. If you don't have any other skill, if you have this skill, you definitely will be able to get into one of those roles. If you have SQL, it is very, very, very fundamental. Even more important than the last one, which we call Python or R. Python and R are very, very popular, but SQL is more. In fact, they can forgive you if you don't have Python, because you can always pick Python along the way. But if you don't have SQL, you will not be able to go very far. It's a very, very core skill in the data domain. And of course, we have Python and R. These are two programming languages which have grown to become a kind of the backbone of the data sector. Recently, we have some other tools like Scala coming into the domain for programming languages, but I mean, Python and R still remain very, very, very popular in job postings. Yeah, so these are some of the skills we require as data professionals.
Okay, thanks, Doctor. Ugo, are you still on the call?
Yes, I'm here. I was just responding to some of the questions in the chat, but yes, I'm here.
Very well. So now that you're here, now you want to talk quickly about, the slide?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you all for joining one more time. And I think with regards to AFAR, I think what we've been able to establish from our perspective, and I think it's kind of in line with the question Gideon and I think it was Juwan asked those questions about transitioning and being able to get into the field. And the thing to really note here is that one of the key things that most organizations are actually looking out for is your hands-on ability. A lot of organizations have moved away from looking at things from the perspective, oh, what did you study in school and things like that. Of course, those things are still important, but most people just want to make sure that you know how to do the day-to-day things, that you have that project-based knowledge, that you understand how to run a project end to end. If I take a set of data and bring it to you to analyze, you're able to do that work. So which is why at Afara, what we really focus on, the first thing we really focus on is organizing our courses around projects. So regardless of what course it is, whether it is data analytics or data science, CRM, business analysis, whatever course we do, it is centered around a project. And the reason we do that is because we want to make sure that you have the skill set, the actual skill set required to do the work, not the theoretical elements of it, not, okay, let's use Python to solve 1 + 1 is equal to 2, but this is an actual data set. This is an actual problem. How can we actually solve it? And that's how a lot of our courses are designed. They're designed to give you that project feel so that you can work on a project. One of the questions that you can always expect to receive from any interviewer is going to be, what projects have you worked on? What type of projects have you been exposed to? We work with some organizations, as an example, that are always asking us to bring in people who can fill in certain roles. And what they're actually asking about when we go, to talk to them and have these meetings, what they're asking us is their project experience. So very, very important that we approach things from that perspective, give you the hands-on knowledge that you require to be successful at doing some of these things. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, you might know how things work, generally speaking. You might be able to configure how, do some analysis on some data sets and things like that. But it's very, very important that you are exposed to the industry best practices. You're not doing things quick and dirty. I think we've spoken about this a lot in our past presentations. You need to be able to do things at the highest level if you want to get those jobs from these organizations that are global or that are international. They don't want you to come and do things anyhow, right? They want you to do things at a certain standard. So those are the things that we're also replicating. We're making sure that you're working with people, so industry experts, so like Tunji himself, who's advising Fortune 500 companies on how they should architect their data, how they can use their data, how to design their infrastructure. All those things require best practices, because if not, you might run into challenges down the line. So being able to be exposed to those best practices, not just from a technical point of view, but even from things like soft skills, how you communicate, how you present yourself, how you approach problems, how you discuss problems. Those are the things that we also like to focus on. And finally, you cannot have enough mentors. You cannot have enough mentors. And the best mentors are the people who are doing the work, the people who are in the industry, people who face this on a day-to-day. They've had a lot of experiences. Tunji has a saying, which I love so much, and we've adopted this as a mantra for Afara as well. It's like, the worst thing you can do to yourself is to run very fast in the wrong direction. So running fast is great, but running fast in the wrong direction is probably not going to be a good use of your time. So, and that's where mentorship comes in. The more mentors you have, the more likely it is that you're going in the right direction from the onset, and that you're avoiding those mistakes that the people who have come ahead of you have made. So we bring in these different experts in the industry. So you're talking to Dr. Wale, for instance, who is a software engineer, PhD, go figure. And you're talking to someone like Tunji, who's a principal architect, and you can imagine, of the amount of experiences that they've had in the past. We also bring in other people that can talk to you about their day-to-day stuff, day-to-day working and things like that. And those are the things that expose you to exactly how you should model yourself, how you should build your profile, how you should approach different situations. Because the way we see Afara as a community, it's not just for that one-time course you come and do with us, it's also for long-lasting community where you have access to these different individuals who can continue to guide you along your journey, whether you're starting your journey or you are somewhere along your journey and you continue to grow, being able to provide you with all of those things. So that's really what Afara is able to provide to you. From our perspective, we've seen this work. We've had different people who've gone through these programs who have been successful, who have landed really great jobs through this this methodology that we have tested and tried and seen it work numerous times. So I'm really excited that you guys have joined this session to hear about these things, and really looking forward to hearing some of your questions and how we can continue to support you moving forward. So I'll pass it back to Tunji, and then we can start the questions.
Okay, thanks, Ugo. I think we are actually at the end of the presentation. We wanted to make it short so we can have room for questions. And I think, we did respond to some of the questions. Maybe I'll just quickly go over some, and then you can unmute yourself to ask a question. And I think the first one was around, can someone with a non-technical background go into data engineering? And I think that's been answered. We've had people from different domains who've made the transition. I think, think about it as a journey. And then I think Dr. talked about, like the different, you can be a data analyst, you can be a business analyst. It can be a journey. You can start with the, non-technical part of things, which is business analyst or data analyst. Actually, Afara has got this foundation for, foundation data analyst course where you don't really need to, you can start from the scratch and you can build using tools around you. I mean, that's a great place to start, because really, I say 60% of the problems you are solving, actually, you've got a tool that can already solve that without you learning, any, machine learning algorithm or Python or any of those things. So it's always a journey. So you can start that journey. And if that's something that interests you, you probably want to contact Afara to have, more discussions around that. Okay, and then do I require a degree in data science before they hire you as a data scientist? And I think that's from Gideon, and I think that ties to also a question from Clara, who said lots of data science openings I see require a master's in the field. If one acquires the skills needed, but with a master's in unrelated field, does that count? Now, this is what I will say. My experience here is a lot of organizations in this part of the world, they are more interested in what you can do, your hands-on. But you are right, you see a lot of all those openings also saying, you need to have a master's. I think that gets your foot in the door. But really, people want to see exactly what you can do. I mean, there's a difference between, you go for the theoretical part, which is really good. It gives you a sound background. But really, what people really care about is what exactly you can do hands-on. And I think another interesting conversation to have is what we are seeing in terms of how education is going to go moving forward. I think with the way technology is going and growing rapidly, I think the current model of how we see education is going to change moving forward. Before now, what you do is you go into the university, you learn one course. Okay, I've learned computer engineering, and then you leverage computer engineering, and then you work for 35 years or 30 years or 20 years, and then you retire. Now, what we are seeing is you have to learn, relearn, learn, or learn, relearn, learn. So you will have a lot of things happening. And I really suspect, how we sort of value all this education is going to change, especially post-COVID, because people are more into what can be done. Okay. Yeah, Ugo, you probably want to take Razak's question. So it says, do you offer internship or have companies that will allow you to learn through the process?
Yeah, so thanks for that question, Razak. So in terms of internships, the way we look at it, I mean, of course, Afara is an organization that can provide you with the opportunity for you to do projects, right? Our courses are project-based. Now, the way we see it is that when you finish that first project, which is the one that we guide you through. So your instructors and facilitators and mentors will be there to guide you through that first project. We'll encourage you to continue to do more projects. We encourage you to continue to build your profile, because it's about your profile. And you can call that an internship if you want. The key deliverable really is more about how many projects are going to be in your project portfolio at the end of the experience, because that is what you're going to be showing to your would-be employers. So that is what we offer you. I mean, we can explore internships. I mean, of course, as needs arise, from our perspective, we can do that. As an example, currently we're looking for, senior full stack developers as an example, based on needs that have arose, from our partners who have been requesting for that. So those opportunities will come up. People have come to us and said, oh, I'm looking for a mobile developer. Things like that do come up. So when those become available, when a proper internship becomes available, yes, we'll make that available to everyone. But what we do really is almost similar to an internship in the sense that we are providing you with access to the projects that you would need to actually build up your portfolio.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? I think those are the few questions I've seen on chat.
I think there's one more from Olusegun.
I think it's more to what Rasak asked. So it says, I'm so interested, but it's always difficult to get a company that work on doing an internship, even without a full knowledge, but with a science background. So I think it's also talking about the internship program and stuff like that.
Okay, sir. Can I please ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. So my question is related to the business analyst training. So what certification exam do I write, or would I have to write, if I take the course? Am I supposed to write the CBAB or, what's the other one? The Foundation in Business Analysis certification. I think that's the one for the UK and the European countries. I don't know which certification exam do you advise that we write?
I can take this one. I think the CBAP is one that is quite popular. A lot of organizations will request for knowledge of CBAP. That would be in terms of certifications. Of course, in recent times, there are newer certifications that have to do with specialist areas, right, in business analysis, like, the Agile group, for instance, have a couple of certifications that you could explore. There's some Scrum certifications as well. But I think the CBAB is the one that is more recognized, especially in North America anyways, I would say, CBAB. And I think in Nigeria as well, I've seen quite a number of organizations that are requesting for that. So CBAB would be our recommendation in terms of that particular area. But of course, for me personally, I'll say, I mean, I'm not knocking these certifications. They're important. They're important to get through ATS. They're important to get through, to get you in the door and stuff like that. But a lot of the times, what really, really matters is your hands-on knowledge, is your understanding of how you run a project and your ability to describe that. You would find that in an interview or in those conversations with the recruiter, they will not necessarily talk too much about the certifications. It's just more like a checklist. Okay, yeah, you have a certification. That's fine. Let's take it to the next level. So something to keep in mind as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
No worries.
Thank you. Okay, do we have any other question?
Yeah, we have one question from Celestine, who says, what is the cost, the course module and cost with APARA?
Okay, so there are a couple of things. I mean, for which of the modules? So there's the data analyst module, foundation, which I think it's about $400 Canadian dollars at present. Yeah, but if you need more information, you can just reach out to us. Yeah, and then we can have that conversation. Yeah, the data analyst one is like $400 Canadian dollars. And I think you are also allowed to, make payments in Naira, just to make it convenient for you to do so. And, like I said, I think this is like if you want to start a journey, I think this is a very, a nice actually course to start that journey, because it gives you like real practical experience, and you can see you are solving like real use cases. So yeah. So if you need more information, Celestine, please just reach out. Maybe go on the website, and then you'll have that information, or send an email to info@afara.io, and we'll provide you more information for sure. Okay, do we have any more questions? Hello, I just checked. I couldn't find training for data science. Yeah, okay, so Badir, that will come up. I think it's happening in 2 weeks' time, if I'm not mistaken, for the data science one. And that will be up on the website like pretty soon. Oh, okay. There's the question from Mayotunde Gaba. What tools will we be learning with for the data analyst module? So the data analyst module, a couple of things. The first, the major tool you'll probably be working with is what's called Oracle Analytics Cloud. Obviously, we'll show you a little bit of some of the other tools that are available. But really, what I say is, once you understand the concept, once you're able to leverage one of these tools, you can go ahead and and leverage the other tools, whether it's Power BI or any of those other analytics tools.
Yeah, Tableau and the rest.
Yeah, Tableau and the rest. But I think, like Ugo said, what's really important is for you to be able to take the training and be able to start and be able to build your own portfolio, or maybe start the journey of building one. So at least you can show to recruiters, things that you have built yourself. Okay. I hope that answers your question, Ayotunde. Okay. Okay. So this is Celestine. This is really okay. So I'm a practicing chartered accountant and an economist. How can data analytics add value to my career? This is a very good question. And what I say is, data analytics is, for me, it's more like presentation skills. It can only make you better. And I know, as a practicing chartered accountant, you are happy with your numbers and stuff. But I think also sometimes when we are communicating, I know, chartered accountant, you people are C-level people, but also I think people consume data better, visually, for example. So one of the things you want to do as an accountant is to be able to take that data that already you are used to and be able to present it in a way that people can sort of follow, communicate it in a way that people can see the value out of the data. What I typically see is, when you sit down with an accountant, by the time you spend maybe 20, 30 minutes, you're all dizzy because of all the numbers. But I think for most people, they want to consume that accounting data, in a way that will sort of, maybe in a visual way, and, and then you tell the stories behind that data. I think that's really important. So for me, it's like, I think anybody that really wants to shine in any organization, this is one skill that you need to have. It's like presentation skills and communication skills.
Yeah, and
go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to add to that, Celestine, as well, is, I think being in the finance space, where, just like Tunji said, where you have where you deal with a lot of numbers, and being able to distill that number down into a story that people can really understand, it's a powerful tool to have. And what we've seen is also, Celestine, you probably know this more than we do, is that there's an emergence of the fintech space that is beginning to grow. In Nigeria, as an example, Flutterwave, Paystack. In Canada, we have so many startups that are coming up in the fintech space. So when you're thinking about, okay, where is, financial services going to, and where, what is the future of financial services? You know, in fintech, as an example, are there those leadership opportunities that could come up in terms of owning or helping them understand their data? Because one thing about data is that the domain expertise that you have is really, really key in really making sense of data. So somebody might be a great data engineer or understand how data works, but without that domain context, it might not be really a great data. And I think Tunji touched upon it when he talked about insights. Data is nothing without insights. And those insights do come from your domain expertise. So being a practicing accountant does bring a lot of that domain expertise in the way you interpret data for the rest of the people. I myself, I had a bachelor's in economics, so I can tell for sure that this is definitely an area that data analytics would be definitely something that would be, you know, a great addition to your career for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks, Hugo. And you know, it's good that you mentioned that domain knowledge, and I think, you know, you cannot take that away when you're dealing with data analytics. So, for example, you know, I've got, you know, talking to someone that wants to solve a problem, and it says, "Listen, is there a way I can predict if my cancer treatment is going to work before I start?" And that's a valid question. Now, I understand data, but there's really no way I can solve that problem without, you know, people in that domain, in that space, to explain what each, you know, data set, what it means, what's the metadata about that data set, before I can add any value. So again, it's merging your data analytics skills with domain skills. And I think also maybe that talks back to where people are asking also for masters, because they probably want to solve a problem in a particular domain, and they are looking for maybe the data scientists to help them do that. So sometimes you need to merge all of these two together. I hope that answers your question, Celestine. Oh, okay, great. I think that's a yes. Okay, any other questions, guys? Okay, so if I'll wait for more questions. I think we still got, we left a lot of time so that we can ask all these questions and answer. Maybe Doc, while we are waiting for more questions, you probably want to talk a little bit about, you know, the data science part of things.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll just say a few things about the data analyst. Maybe I'll just I'm trying to use one of the questions as a kind of this question that says a lot of data science openings I see require masters in field. If one acquires the skills needed, but with a master's in let me use that as a point of for people that are thinking, okay, I want to transition into data science. So the field of data science, actually, like I said, is a kind of technical one. And one of the ways through which you can actually get in is to get in maybe as a data analyst. Then you can now gradually transition. I'll give myself as an example. When I was switching from academia to the industry, I looked at what is the easiest way for me to get into the industry, being that I've always been a teacher all my career. How can I, get into because all that my resume from top to bottom was teaching this, teaching that, teaching this. So I've been a teacher. How do I enter into how do people believe that I have the skills to be able to function? So I looked for, first and foremost, I got a mentor. And the mentor now told me that I need to have projects. I need to have projects that I have worked on in the kind of field that I want to get into. So I saw that, well, web development is something that's going to give me a kind of a leeway into that industry, into the tech sector. And that's how I actually got in, because I went in, I built a portfolio for myself such that when I began to attend interviews, I was no longer talking like a lecturer. I was beginning to talk like a technologist. So this is one of the ways through which you actually get into that field. And then from there, once you have your leg into the industry, you can now determine where you want to go. You can determine, okay, I want to go in the direction of data analysis. I want to go in the direction of data. So just look for the one that is less technical, get in, and then begin to work your way up. So that's the kind of advice I'll give. I think some more questions have come in, right?
Yeah, I think that's been answered now.
Yeah.
Okay. I think Olusegun is asking about the
internship
again. I think so you want to take that again?
Yes, Olusegun. So what we answered earlier on, and by the way, I mean, for those who have bad network, we would also provide a recording of this session afterwards, so that you can always take a look if you've been having bad network. But our response essentially to that question was that while we don't offer an internship at the moment, what we do offer is that project-based learning and guidance to continue to do more projects, which is really the most important thing that you would need when facing recruiters or when you're attempting to get a job. However, as needs arise, we can have internship programs in the future where you can come join Afara, for a period of time. That's something that we can do. So currently, we're not looking for data analysts and at the internship level. What we're looking for some senior developers, due to the demand we're getting from our partners who want some developers. And as those opportunities come up, we will also make them available to our community. So the most important thing really is starting the project, doing one of the projects, and then continuing to build your project portfolio. That's really what we want to guide you through, because that's really what recruiters really want the most at the end of the day. But definitely happy to discuss more if there's significant interest in internships. Definitely something we can consider in the future for sure.
Okay, very well. I don't see any other question here. I think we still got 7 minutes. So if you have any question, please maybe unmute yourself or type it in the chat.
There was a question from Celestine about training kits. I wasn't quite sure I understood that. So Celestine, can you expand a little bit on what you mean by training kits so that we're answering accurately? Okay, so while Celestine is doing that, maybe Tunji, you want to look at Joanne's question about what type of projects one can do for data analysis.
Oh. Okay, so a couple of things. I mean, so maybe I should give an example of one of the projects that was delivered by the last cohort, which speaks more to. So think about an insurance scenario where you've got a lot of fraud happening. So, for example, you've got an insurance company. And then you find out that maybe like 50% of, 50% of the payments they make, they found out that, like 50% of that transaction is fraudulent. But how can you sort of leverage machine learning to figure out which of those claims are likely to be fraudulent before it happens? This is a real life scenario. How do you take data from historical data and be able to analyze that data to figure that out, such that for example, where the fraud happens, when it happens, the likely customer that is going to happen with, the kind of, maybe if it's a car or accident claim fraud, the kind of vehicle that is involved in that, and you'll be able to help the organization to say, listen, I think you need to start thinking about this. It looks like, once you have a new car, after the third or fourth year, you see the level of fraud increases, because what people typically want to do is to say, listen, let me go and crash that car and, take the money. Since they won't give me a new car anyways, let's see if they will give me money. I can take that money and go buy a new one. So those are the kind of, projects that you're probably going to work on when you have that training. So it's a quite interesting one. So it's not just about visualizing the data; it's also leveraging all the new technologies, machine learning, without coding. I must say, I mean, for the data analyst foundation role, you don't have to do any coding. You've got tools that will help you do that. But it's about finding insight from data and telling your own story, and that's what that's all about. Okay. Yeah, I think there are some other questions. Yeah, so Juwon, I hope that answers your question. Celestine talks about software training manuals. Yes, you will have all of those things to help you. You know, what we focus on is really, you know, learning by doing. So you know, it's not like, you know, recorded messages or what. You join online real time, you're talking to real people, you go through all these you know, projects. You can ask questions, you can do all of that. So yeah, it's you will have all of those things. I think Razak says for data analyst foundation, yeah, can we pay in installments? I think we can work something out for you. Let's know what you have in mind. Send a message to info@afara.io. Yeah, do we have training workbooks, labs, and other relevant? I think we answered that. Yeah, yes, it does. I hope I've answered your question. Razak, did I answer your question? Celestine and Juwon, I hope you were able to answer your question. Just give me a yes, no, maybe, if you don't mind. Okay, I'll take that as a yes. I think we are pretty much done here. Any final word, Doc? Any final word, Ugo?
I think from my perspective, first and foremost, thank you so much, guys, for spending your Sunday evening with us. We do appreciate it. We have a number of these webinar series where we look at the different areas, you know, whether it is data analysis today, this week, 2 weeks ago, I think we talked about CRM, and the week before we talked about cybersecurity. So we have all of these different streams, and some of those streams may not be on the website, but you can definitely reach out to us via info@afara.io, and you could see Instagram, you can follow us, you can, listen to, we have things like tips on how to prepare for interviews, stuff like that. We're constantly trying to provide as much information as we can. We also do have a free job consultation service where you can schedule a job consultation with us for free. We give you 30 minutes and discuss exactly what what you're trying to do and help you sort of chart a pathway in that sense. So I'm really excited that you guys are joining in. I'm looking forward to working with each and every one of you moving forward. So thank you again for sharing your time with us.
Absolutely, thank you, Doc.
All right, so I just basically want to appreciate you for joining us, taking time out to join us today. We really appreciate you. And yeah, I think I saw one question. It says, how soon, Olusegun was asking that, how soon do one start this training and location, please? I think that was the last question I just saw when I was looking at the chat.
Oh, okay. So I think the foundation one, I think another one is happening in 2 or 3 weeks. I think what we can do is, when we share this video with you, we can share more information about that. And I know that also the data science one also is coming up. So I think we can share that information with you also. So it's online, Zoom, Google Meet, but then we are talking to real people. It's not we are putting a video there to go learn by yourself. Real people, real problems, real solution. We work on the time that works for everybody, and yeah, that's how it works typically, right? Okay, so I think we are right on the hour. Thank you so much for sharing your Sunday evening with us, and we do look forward to seeing you guys on many more webinars coming up. I think what we want to do is to look at each space and provide information, let people know what's going on around the world, and then maybe share our own thoughts. I think, Gideon, you have the last question. You have your answer before I close the session. You want to go for that real quick? Okay, I think that was a mistake. Oh, sorry, you didn't need to. Okay, that's fine. So enjoy the rest of your evening, and thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.